So maybe I give a little bit of a background of Bridge to Food and what Bridge to Food is, and I think that will help. Yeah. So Bridge to Food is a 20-year-old organisation that looks to help companies in the food industry overcome some major challenges. So food is a problem, right, for society, and there's inequality of food provision. But one of the major things that we focus on now in food is sustainability. So something like 35% of greenhouse gas emissions come from food and food production. So that's more than transportation, it's more than buildings, it's more than any other sector, but it's not really discussed that much. It's only until very, very recently that people at COP have been talking about food. Also, we've got a massively growing population in the world. So the world's going to have 10 billion people by about 2058 and 11 billion people by by the turn of the next century. And what that means, and the statistic that kind of blows my mind, is that we need to produce as much food in the next 35 years as we had in the last 8,000. Okay? So if put that together with food creating 35% of greenhouse gas emissions, and then you look at how global temperatures are rising, and all of the records for highest temperatures are very close. All of the records for the lowest temperatures are way in the past. And you can just see this kind of correlation. The problem with food is that people aren't going to continue to buy it unless you get the taste and the texture correct. Because otherwise people don't want to eat food that you don't enjoy. People don't want to eat food that isn't nutritious. So if you're 35% greenhouse gas emissions, about 28% of that comes from livestock agriculture, from animals, keeping animals, domesticated animals. And there's more domesticated animals on the planet than there are sort of wild mammals now. There's more chickens and pigs and cows than there are the other ruminants, the other kind of animals that walk the earth. So if we're going to get people to think about having alternatives to meat, the taste, the texture has to be great, the nutrition has to be great, and it also needs to be affordable. So that's a bit of a background to what Bridge to Food do. Is we run events that give people who work in research and development, who put together products, we run events for these people to help them produce better products, but are not just sustainable because they're better for the planet, but they're commercially sustainable, i.e. they taste great, they're good for you, and they're affordable. One of the other things that we do at Bridge to Food is we've got a community platform that we call our ecosystem. And the ecosystem is made up of members who pay to be a part of that community. And then how it's been run historically is that we've had a Teams call every 2 weeks to discuss one issue to do with food. So 1 week it might be on life cycle assessments. How do I run a life cycle assessment for my food? The next one could be on how to make tastier beef alternatives. The next one could be on developments in fermentation or something like that. Not sure if this means anything to you, but so we focus every 2 weeks. We've got a professional community, but we were very conscious that we weren't really doing much for the community other than a Teams call every 2 weeks. And through a contact who's actually the CFO of our organization, we linked up with Eleni, and we posed a problem to Eleni and said, right, okay, we've got this community, they're highly engaged, they're purpose-driven, they're scientific, so can you do your best to understand the lives of these people and what we can do better as an organization to serve them? Yeah. And at that point, it might be, shall I hand over now to talk a little bit more about the project, or would you like me to go into more detail about it? Yeah, okay, perfect. So linked out, reached out to Eleni. We discussed the issues and what the approach could be to solving the problem. And then Eleni got Georgia and Therese together to work with us. And what we are in the process of developing, so we've now got a project which is qualitative as well as quantitative feedback from lots of players within our ecosystem, as we call it. And we've now got a roadmap of how to deliver value to these clients. And we're really enthusiastic about the future because we can do a hell of a lot more than Teams, right? Teams calls are, we've all struggled with Teams calls from now and again, and it's not built for a big external community of up to about 500 people. There are technology platforms out there, and you guys have identified some that's been incredibly useful, but we can now see, okay, we can move this community onto this platform. We can deliver these guys more value because they pay to be a part of that community. But underlying that, we can deliver a bigger impact in terms of collaboration, fostering collaboration within the food sector. But it's really important to help us do that whole as much food as the last 8,000 years in the next 35, because unless there is collaboration across the value chain, unless there is sharing of scientific knowledge of what goes on in universities, what goes on in industry, unless that happens, we're not going to get there. And that's what our whole business model is based upon. So thank you very much, Therese and Georgia and Eleni, for taking us on that journey and producing a plan for us that, we can implement in the future. Yeah.